Hey y'all, welcome back. Y'all come on in. Let's put a little bit of color to the roses that we tooled. I was talking with my wife about it. We live in Texas, so we have what we call the yellow rose of Texas, so she thought that's what color they should be. And I'm not against that. Kind of fond of it. So what she also helped me decide on is I did 2 sample pieces on a scrap piece of leather, and I strongly encourage you to do that so you see what your color is going to do. Now this one right here is the Pro dye, whereas this one here, those are your acrylics and the water bases that we talked about yesterday. You can see the difference in the colors of them, how brilliant the water bases are. And there is just a limitless, they even have fluorescent colors that I'm aware of in those water-based colors, so you can just go nuts with them. Now I haven't ever, since the acrylics and the water bases are a lot thicker, then I haven't tried one of those in my new airbrush yet to see how that is. You can water them down. You can thin them out. But see how this yellow penetrated so much better. That's the reason why I use those. And these are your permanent dyes. But in order to get a true yellow out of that, it's going to take a few applications. And I really need to get these moccasins finished up. So we're not going to use the Pro dye. We're going to use these are your water bases that I get from Tandy. EcoFlow Cova Color. Your permanent dyes, along with Phoebings. EcoFlow also does make them. And they're called Tintus Para Creo something or other. I don't know. Anyway, they also make those. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, let me get it open. Y'all do this however y'all want to. It's your project. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the base color on first. I always do the base color no matter what I'm working on. And then I'll do my accents afterwards. But I got another disposable brush. And what I'll do is I'll just come in. Now with these, since I'm using a brush, I try to stay on top of my project. I'm coming in with shadows anyway. And it'll take several coats. It's going to soak in some. But that other yellow just didn't seem to be quite as brilliant. That's what we thought it should be. And don't get me wrong, these colors, they'll last a long time. But I am not anywhere near steady enough anymore to even attempt those edges with a brush. Those days are gone for me. And on a larger project like this, you can get a little liberal with it. You don't have to be sparingly or anything. But I'll just come out and I'll just get the surface. And I'll just do one part of it at a time, folks. I am nowhere near brave enough to try and attempt a different color on a different part of it until I'm absolutely positive that this one is completely dry. And you'll do it too, trust me. Everyone does. You're going to be all involved in your next color and the next part of your project. And you're just going to not think about it, and you're going to reach over there and you're going to grab the part that's still wet. And next thing you know, it's going to be on a part of your project that you don't want it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not too concerned about getting the edge out there where we tooled, because I will I'll be coming back in with some shadows and stuff like that, which will take care of those edges. But all we're doing now is just getting our base color on there. And that's the way I like to do it. That's just me. I'll get my base colors down. I'll let them completely dry. There's a lot of drying time in this hobby, but don't rush it. If you do, something's going to go wrong. I can nearly guarantee it. As much fun as I've been having with these so far with the new stitching machine, I'm not going to brush it now. I'm going to try to get them finished up for somebody. Not going to go to my sister-in-law because I had to trim them down from a 7 to a 5 in order to, if you've seen the other video where the first attempt with the new stitching machine, like I said before, I've been hand stitching all of my projects for the last 40 plus years. So dealing with that contraption, don't get me wrong, I really think I'm going to just love being able to use a machine finally. But anyway, I'll get my base colors down. Like from here, I'll go to the green. I'll do a sample on those dyes again. Let you see that difference. Your greens and your darker colors and the pro dyes and your permanent dyes, they're a whole lot more prominent than what your lighter colors are, at least I've found. And like I said, don't get me wrong, this will last quite a while, because you can see where it's soaking in to a certain extent. But I'll do both these roses and I'll get them done today. I want to try to get the coloring . done in the next couple of days. I want to try to get these finished. I've got another belt to make. I want to try to get these things done this weekend, by this weekend. But I'll let this yellow dry, and then I'll come in and I'll do the green, the base color for the green. Now if you're young and you're still rock solid steady and you want to do those edges, be my guest. But there's no way I'm going to attempt it with a brush. Not at 65. What I'll probably do, I'll experiment a little bit with the brush, the airbrush, and some of these colors. I'd like to be able to spray them through the airbrush without running the risk of clogging it up. But those tips are so small. I may try to water some of this down just as an experiment. But I think I showed on that cat yesterday, especially the white. That was a acrylic, a water-based paint. And then you can come back in with the other dye if you want to. And feather your edges out to a different color. You can do that with it. And this will take several stages, several coats. But I don't want any of those darker areas. I want it to be yellow. That way I can put the shadows where I want them. These are going to be shorter videos because we're into a time of the project where there's just so much drying time. And that's just part of it. So you have to have patience. But if you haven't seen it, I did a video called Yoga for the Brain. It's for me. I can get in here and I can start working on a project, and I could not care less what's going on outside. I can completely get rid of my day. Where'd you go? There you are. And for me, I just haven't found anything better. Now, if you don't let this dry for a little bit, this acrylic, then all you're going to be doing is just smearing it around. It's not going to cover up the coat that you already put on there. And then the part of it too that's soaking in are your darker areas. Alrighty, I think you get the idea. I'm going to get the other one done and let them dry. I'll probably get them done over the off camera. That way, now we still got a little bit of time. Let me at least get the other one started. Y'all are waiting for me to mess up, aren't you? When you're into this stage of it, they're just not, at least the way I like to do it, there's just not a whole lot of, when you are involved with drying time and stuff, then once I get into the coloring aspect of it and the finishing touches and stuff, then I'll usually have another project or something like that going where I can switch over to it while whatever I was working on while it's drying. There's going to be, it's just part of it. It's just what it is. But the end results, I think, are just amazing. What you can do with a piece of leather. But it's a good example, very good example of how well you can control it. What I showed with the permanent dyes yesterday, I think it was yesterday, maybe it wasn't. When I was using the red, I showed what it would do if you touch your background or someplace where you don't want that color to go. How it would just spider web out, because this leather dry, remember, it's going to act very similar to a sponge. It's going to try to soak it up. But I'll come in with some brown after I get the base color down for the stem. I'll come in with some brown then, and I'll do the kind of shadowing, highlights and stuff of it. Or you can use one of those stains like I used on the last belt that I did. It's a water base. It's just wide open to you, whatever you want to do. What's your preference? And we have finally been gotten warm enough where we're at here in Texas where we can leave the windows to the house open. That was a neighbor's truck you just heard come by. This spring's been kind of goofy for us. It's been we had a couple of nights here in April where it got back down into the mid to lower 40s, and that is incredibly unusual for us. Usually by this time we're in the mid to upper 70s and then the 60s or so at night. Alright, let's see what else we can get. Got that, and then something else I wanted to show you guys while I was doing the tooling. I think I mentioned when I very first started the tooling on these roses, I thought one of them was a little bit too wet to be tooling. It turns out that it was, but I went ahead and did it anyway for the video. I would have let it dry, but I wanted to show you how you can tell if you're too wet or too dry. I'm going to need to let this one dry for a little while before I can do any more of the coloring on it. What I wanted to show you on those shadows, or on the tooling part of it though, on how to tell whether you're too wet or too dry, is see how much darker. Use this other brush. Y'all don't run off. Use this other brush. But see along the edges here where it's a whole lot darker? Looks like I've already colored it or stained it or something. Well, this one was my optimum where I wanted it as far as being the project being wet. But you can make out a lot better. You should be able to make out your entire design on the back of your project when you turn it over. But I'll show you the difference in the other one. See how these edges are not near as pronounced. Like I said, I thought it was felt a little bit too bouncy on the tool. It'll act like a sponge when you hit it. If it springs back, is what I call it, then you're too wet. You need to let it dry for a little bit. But you can see back here how much more difficult it is. You hardly even make it out in some areas. But you want to be able to tell. You want to be able to see exactly where you tooled on the back side of your project, no matter how thick the leather is. That's when you know you're where you need to be. So, all right, I'm going to, I think you'll get the idea for the yellow. I'm going to give this time to dry a little bit. And then we'll put the green on. It'll be the same process, but we'll put the green on and go from there. And see how we do. So anyway, with that, Judy and I like to end with, don't be mean. If you're not willing to treat Jesus that way, then let's not treat each other that way. And with that, until the next time, I'll probably bring you guys back when I do the green. So I'll show you. Basically, I'm going to do the same thing with it. Maybe not as heavy in some areas, like on the stem and stuff, but we'll get there. I'll go through that with you, show you how I accent stuff. So anyway, with that, until the next time, adios.